He was a quiet professional just doing his job behind the camera. But when the director saw who he was, it wasn't about the work anymore. It became personal, mocked, shut down, humiliated in front of the crew all because of who he loved. He could have walked away, but instead he documented everything. The insults, the silence, the truth, and when the audio surfaced, the industry couldn't look away. This isn't just a story about one man being targeted. It's about what happens when someone refuses to shrink and chooses to stand their ground. You won't believe how far this story goes and what it changes. Do you think he should have stayed quiet, or did he do the right thing? Tell us what you think in the comments. And if stories like this matter to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Adrian Morales had waited 13 years for this kind of call. A union-scale feature, mid-budget, real distribution deal locked in, and a director whose name people actually recognized. It wasn't a studio film, not yet, but it was the kind of project that got people talking, the kind that could finally slide a reel across the desk of someone at Warner or Amazon and get a real answer back. He'd been doing commercials, branded shorts, music videos, nothing fancy but enough to live, enough to survive. Enough to build a quiet reputation as someone who always delivered on time, on budget, with clean color work and emotional framing that didn't try too hard. People called him a craftsman. He liked that better than artist. It meant he showed up. He didn't talk much about being gay, not because he was hiding, he never had, but because he didn't want it to be his opening credit. He had a partner, Eric, who taught at an arts high school. They had a dog, a quiet life. He wasn't trying to be a symbol, he just wanted to make good images and get paid fairly for them. The film was called Ash and Ember, a survival thriller set in the high desert. A woman trapped with her estranged father after a wildfire, long, wide shots, shifting light, tension between silence and heat. Adrian had read the script and felt it right in his chest. It wasn't flashy, it was honest. The director was Barrett Kane. A veteran, early success in the 90s, then a long stretch of slow projects, quiet deals that fell apart, and now his return. Everyone said it. The investors, the press blurb, the unit publicist. It was Barrett Kane's return. Adrian had heard things, not accusations, just the kind of vague warnings that floated around certain directors. Old school. He's intense. Demanding but brilliant. The kind of words that covered a lot of ground and didn't actually tell you what to expect. Still, Adrian wasn't worried. He'd worked with difficult people before. You kept your tone low, your call times sharp, and your lens clean. That was the job. They shot just outside Santa Fe. 3 weeks of prep, 5 weeks of shoot. Crew was mostly local. Tight team, lean budget, no trailers, just tents, crates, and heat. The first week was calm. Barrett barely spoke to Adrian. He gave notes through the first AD, grunted at dailies, nodded once during a location scout, and said, "Looks fine." Adrian didn't take it personally. Directors worked how they worked, and his shots were holding. The gaffer was sharp, his operator was locked in, and the grip team knew their angles. But on day 6 it started. They were setting up for a golden hour shot, lead actress pacing the edge of a canyon, fire haze in the background, wind in her hair, no dialogue, just movement. Adrian had tracked the angle 3 days in advance, calculated the sun dip, pre-rigged with bounce and neg fill to catch the glow without flattening it. He called it ready. Barrett came over, looked through the monitor, then stepped back. "Why does it look like a Levi's ad?" he said, not quietly. Adrian blinked. "It's natural light, just lifted slightly on the shadow side. It looks stylized. We're not selling perfume, we're making a film." Adrian didn't answer. Barrett looked past him at the gaffer. "Kill the bounce. Drop the black flag. Let the sun do the work. This isn't an Instagram reel." The gaffer looked to Adrian, who nodded once. They made the adjustments. Barrett walked off without another word. After the shot, Jess, the script supervisor, came over and handed Adrian a small slip of paper. She didn't say anything, just tapped it and walked away. He glanced at it. "Barrett's like this, keep notes just in case." He folded the paper and put it in his back pocket. Over the next few days, the comments kept coming. Barrett began stepping into the monitor zone during live takes, breathing down shoulders, muttering about too much polish or overthought angles. He made jokes at lunch about millennial crews being allergic to dirt. Once, he walked past Adrian during a quick lens change and said, "I guess every frame has to feel like it's announcing itself these days." They were small things, not enough to formally complain about, not enough to stop production, but enough to shift the energy. Adrian started second-guessing himself, started holding back on flourishes, pulled back on the color plan he'd built in prep. On day 11, Barrett said something louder. They were blocking a dialogue scene inside a burned-out shack, tight framing, dim light, long take. Adrian had suggested a slow push on a 35 handheld with some breathing room to let the actors move. Barrett frowned. "No, we lock it. Static frame. We're not making a music video." Adrian said gently, "Static will flatten the beat. We need emotional movement." Barrett turned. "I said no, this isn't your vanity reel, okay?" A few people looked over. Adrian nodded. "Got it." That night he called Eric and said, "I think this guy has a problem with me." Eric didn't ask what he meant, he just said, "Is it fixable?" "I don't think he wants to fix it." It kept building. Barrett started giving lighting notes directly to the gaffer, told the first AC to reset marks without checking with Adrian. On day 14, he walked past the camera cart and muttered, "Guess it's all about mood now, not storytelling." Adrian didn't respond. He logged the comment, quietly asked Jess if she'd heard it. She nodded. "Everything in the report, don't worry." Then on day 15, it cracked. They were mid-shoot, a heavy dialogue scene between the two leads. Long monologue, tight push-in, the actor nailed it. Adrian smiled behind the monitor, then Barrett slammed his headset down. "This is useless, this is soft, this looks like a goddamn cologne commercial. Do you even know what this movie is?" Everyone froze. Barrett kept going. "This is what happens when you hire people off Instagram. You want to make everything look like a queer art gallery instead of a movie." The word hung in the air, sharp, deliberate. Adrian stood. "We're cutting." Barrett turned. "Yeah, we're cutting. And maybe you should go take a walk and figure out whether you want to make films or decorate them." No one moved. Adrian looked at Jess. She tapped her script binder once, subtle. Her mic had been hot. He walked off set. He didn't yell. He didn't slam anything. He didn't even swear. He just walked, hands shaking slightly, past the trailers, past the crates, to the edge of the dirt lot. He pulled out his phone, opened notes, and wrote. Day 15, 3:48 p.m. Verbal incident slur used. Witnesses present. Hot mic active. Then he called the production office and said calmly, "I'm logging an official incident. I'd like it noted immediately." There was a pause, then a quiet reply, "Understood." He hung up and stared at the empty lot for a long moment. Something had shifted, and there was no going back. Adrian didn't come back to set right away. He sat behind the equipment van for nearly 40 minutes. Not because he was afraid of confrontation, but because if he walked back too fast, someone would think it didn't matter. And it did. It mattered more than anything else on that set right now. Eventually, the first AD came looking for him. Her name was Ray. She didn't say much when she found him, just nodded and handed him a bottle of water. "They're resetting, we've got 20. Then she sat next to him and didn't fill the silence. After a while she said, "He's not new to this, you know that, right?" Adrian nodded, "Seems like it." She stood, "You're not either." Back on set, Barrett had retreated to his folding chair. Sunglasses on, headset off, chewing sunflower seeds like he had better things to do than direct. The crew was quiet, not scared, not panicked, just cautious. Like animals sensing a storm and not sure where to run. Adrian didn't speak to Barrett, didn't need to. He adjusted his frame, rechecked exposure, and ran the shot again. The performance was good. Better, maybe. The lead actress had a glassy look in her eyes that read more tired than tragic, but it worked. It all worked. Barrett didn't say a word, just waved a hand when it was over. The next day, things got stranger. Barrett stopped giving Adrian any feedback at all. Not through the first AD, not in passing, not even by eye contact. He just stopped acknowledging him. He'd give orders directly to grips or gaffers, sometimes skipping protocol altogether, sometimes asking Adrian's camera operator to make changes without relaying through him. At first, the crew tried to adapt quietly to work around the tension, but it became obvious something had changed. On set, people stopped making eye contact. Jokes got fewer. Headsets clicked on, then off, but voices didn't say much. The silence grew heavy. The production kept moving, but the spirit had gone flat. Adrian kept documenting everything. After every day, he'd sit in the motel room and type out notes, what Barrett said, who was there, what time it happened. Sometimes it was a direct line. Sometimes it was a strange glance or a snide remark to someone else that he knew was about him. He didn't embellish, just recorded. He looped in Alicia, a contact from the Entertainment Guild's legal team that he'd met at a diversity mixer years ago. She wasn't officially representing him yet, but she was advising. And she said the same thing every time, document, document, document. Jess helped too. She had logs, exact timestamps of dialogue, camera roll records. She quietly shared copies of scene breakdowns where Barrett had scribbled comments like "DP overthinking it" and "too moody, tell him to keep it straight." "He writes these for the producers," she said. "You should see the ones from last season." Adrian asked, "Did he do this to the last DP?" "No, last one was straight, also 20 years older." On the third week, Adrian started hearing whispers. A sound op told him, "He's talking about replacing you." Adrian blinked, "Seriously?" "He's saying he doesn't trust your eye, wants someone less experimental." "Is that the word he used?" "Among others." He thanked her, logged the quote. Kept working, it was hard to keep focus. His shots lost their edge, not because he didn't care, but because he couldn't breathe right when framing. He'd double-check everything twice, then a third time. He started pre-lighting as if every setup might be his last. Crew members started asking if he was okay. He told them he was just tired, but he wasn't tired, he was pissed. And underneath that, he was calculating. On a Thursday morning, Jess pulled him aside. "You should know," she said. "I've worked with Barrett before." "Yeah." 3 years ago, he got a PA fired for being too soft. She was trans. Adrian didn't speak. He said she was distracting the cast. Production let her go quietly. I only found out after wrap. Did anyone push back? No one had proof, just stories. Adrian exhaled. This time's different. Jess nodded. I think so. That night, Adrian received an email from a crew member who wanted to stay anonymous. They said they'd worked with Barrett on a pilot 2 years ago and had witnessed similar behavior toward a gay grip. They weren't sure if they should say anything, but they'd seen the look on Barrett's face the day he exploded. They recognized it. The email ended with, "He doesn't think people like us belong, but he doesn't say it. He weaponizes professionalism, that's his shield." Adrian read it twice. Then he added it to his folder. The producers weren't blind to the tension, but they weren't saying much. Production was on schedule and Barrett still had name value. As long as the shoot didn't collapse, they were incentivized to ride it out, but Adrian knew they were watching. On Friday, one of the co-producers asked to have a chat. They met behind the equipment truck, small talk first, then the tone shifted. "We heard there been some creative tension." Adrian didn't flinch. "That's one way to put it. I want you to know we appreciate the work you've done. This is a beautiful shoot, I mean that." "Thank you." "There's just concern about tone on set. People feel on edge." Adrian blinked. "Are you asking me to be quieter?" "No," the producer said, raising both hands. "Just saying we want the team to feel united, that's all." Adrian paused, then said carefully, "I've been documenting everything, just so you know, including the comment Barrett made on day 15. The producer's eyes flicked slightly. "You're within your rights." "I know." After a pause, the producer added, "We're not here to take sides." Adrian nodded. "I didn't ask you to." The conversation ended there. That night, Eric sent Adrian a photo of their dog in the backyard, paws in the dirt, tongue out like a fool. The caption said, "Still thinks you hung the moon." Adrian stared at the photo for a long time, then closed the message and opened his notes again. He logged the producer conversation, the email, the warning about being replaced. He knew how this worked. They wanted him to step down quietly, but he wasn't going anywhere. The call sheet for day 17 came in late after midnight. A long scene, heavy dialogue, and back-to-back camera setups in a remote cabin built into the hills. Adrian barely slept. When he finally did, he dreamed he was trying to frame a shot underwater, everything wobbly, out of reach. The alarm cut through the dream just as he gasped for air. He arrived on set before sunrise like always. Checked the rigging, walked the blocking path with his first AC, checked that the haze machines were working without flooding the frame. He barely spoke. It was a morning for silence, for staying steady, for pretending the cracks weren't there. Barrett showed up late. No apology, no greeting. Just walked in with sunglasses still on, gave the script a cursory glance, and muttered something about cutting half the coverage. No one asked why, they just adjusted. The actors were tired too. Weeks in the desert had worn them down. You could see it in their posture, in the way the makeup team stopped trying to hide the real exhaustion, but in a way the fatigue helped. The scene they were shooting was about desperation, survival. There was something real under the surface. The camera was rolling when Barrett snapped again. It started with a line, the actor missed it, small stumble. Adrian signaled to cut and reset, no big deal. But Barrett stood up from his director's chair and walked onto the set. "No," he said loudly, that's not it at all." The crew stilled. The actor stood frozen, half in character, half in confusion. Barrett turned first to the cast, then to Adrian. "You're killing the rhythm," he said. "You're staging it like a F******ing pride parade." The words were so casual they hit harder. Adrian blinked. "What did you just say?" Barrett pointed at the monitor. "You've got the camera floating like it's a perfume commercial. We're losing grit, losing teeth. Everything's soft, pretty, hollow." "We're following the blocking you approved," Adrian said. "No, you're following your feelings." There was a beat of silence. Then louder, Barrett added, "You want to make the whole damn movie about yourself. Is that what this is? A showreel for your community?" Someone inhaled sharply. One of the grips dropped a cable. The mic was still hot. Everyone knew it. Adrian stepped out from behind the monitor. His voice was calm. "You don't get to speak to me that way." Barrett laughed. "I just did. I'm filing a formal complaint, right now, with legal, with the producers, with the guild." Go ahead, Barrett snapped. You think they'll choose you over me. You think you're untouchable because of your little rainbow shield. That was when Jess stood up. Barrett, she said, clear, steady. The mic has been recording since call time. Barrett turned, his mouth partly open. I've got 2 hours of audio, this whole exchange, and the one from last week. Barrett started to speak, then stopped. No one moved, no one said a word. Adrian picked up his headset. I'm taking 5, union mandated. He left the set without looking back. In the lot, he sat on the bumper of the camera truck and pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking, but not from fear, it was something else, something that felt strangely like clarity. He dialed Alicia. Send it, he said. She didn't need to ask what he meant. The complaint, the file. The audio, the incident log, the full report. She said, I'm on it. By the time he returned to set, Barrett was in his trailer. The producers were huddled behind the video village. Ray, the first AD, was coordinating a pickup shot without Barrett. It wasn't normal, nothing was, but no one was saying anything out loud yet. Jess passed him a thumb drive on her way to the water station. Backup copy, she said. Thank you. I've had enough of him, a lot of people have. Adrian pocketed the drive. That night, the production issued a statement to the crew, an internal memo. Barrett would be stepping away for the rest of the shoot to allow for a professional review of conduct. The second unit director would step in. The tone was soft, corporate, but it was enough. Eric called that night. I saw the tweets. Adrian hadn't even checked his phone. Apparently, someone from set had leaked a few lines of audio. The clip had no names, no faces, just Barrett's voice calling the camera work a pride parade. That was all it took. Film Twitter picked it up first, then a few smaller outlets. The rest were coming. Adrian didn't post anything. He didn't respond. He just sat on the edge of his motel bed, the room dim, the air conditioning humming low. For the first time since the project began, he felt the floor settle beneath him. The next morning, the guild called. We're opening a formal investigation. Your documentation is solid. Your witnesses are willing. You've done everything right. Adrian thanked them, then asked, will it make a difference? It already has, the rep said. Now we just have to finish the job. Back on set, the mood was different. Still quiet, but not heavy anymore, like something poisonous had been removed. People made eye contact again. The actor shook his hand when he approached. Even the craft services guy gave him an extra croissant without saying anything. He finished the shoot, no fanfare, no press, just wrapped it like he always did, camera locked, car dumped, batteries packed. Jess gave him a hug on the final day. You did it, she said. We did it, he replied. The footage was stunning, every frame held up. Barrett never came back, but the story did, and it was just beginning to spread. The wrap party never happened. It was still listed on the call sheet, still penciled into the production calendar, but once Barrett was gone, the crew didn't feel like raising glasses. They just went home. Some of them hugged, others just nodded and walked off into the dust. Adrian stayed late to help the post-team label drives. He shook the first AC's hand, thanked the grips, and left the lot like he was walking out of a courtroom, not with celebration but with resolve. By the time he got back to Los Angeles, the story had gained legs. Film Twitter wasn't just gossiping anymore. Industry blogs had picked it up. IndieWire ran a piece with the headline, Director Leaves Production After Alleged On-Set Remarks, DP Speaks Out. It didn't name Barrett directly at first, but the comment sections made it clear everyone already knew. Alicia met him for coffee the next morning. They sat on the back patio of a quiet cafe in Los Feliz, sunlight bouncing off the glass doors behind them. She wore round glasses and had a folder already open. You documented everything, she said. That's what saved this. Adrian nodded, stirring his coffee. Jess submitted her statement this morning, Alicia continued. And we've confirmed the mic audio timestamps. Your time logs match. The footage is clean. It's all there. What now? Legal complaints ready. We'll file with the Guild and with the Producers Alliance. We're requesting arbitration first, but this might get bigger. He looked at the folder. It already is. Alicia took a sip of tea. Also, someone else came forward, worked with Barrett on a miniseries 4 years ago, DP's assistant, said Barrett called him soft and too precious for this line of work. He left the industry a year later. Adrian blinked. Do they want to be named? Not yet, but they're willing to submit a sealed statement. He sat back. The sun felt hotter than before. That afternoon his phone rang. Unknown number. He hesitated, then picked up. Is this Adrian Morales?
Yes.
This is Dana Lynn from The Hollywood Reporter. I'd like to speak with you about the events on the Ash and Ember set. He didn't speak at first. I know it's early, she said gently, but we've seen the documents, heard the audio. We'd like to give you space to share your experience on your terms. Adrian didn't answer right away. He just listened to the wind over the phone line. Then he said, "I'll call you back." He didn't, not that week. He wasn't ready to be a headline. He didn't want to be the gay DP who stood up to a bigot. He just wanted the truth to be on record, but the truth had a way of finding its own light. 3 days later, someone leaked the full hot mic clip, not the edited snippet that had made the rounds earlier, the full exchange. Barrett's voice, the slurs, the dismissal, the silence that followed. Within hours, the Guild issued a formal statement condemning discriminatory behavior on set and announcing an internal review. The production company followed with their own, vague, polished, corporate. Adrian's name trended for 3 days. He turned his phone off after the first. Eric brought him takeout and left his own phone in another room. They ate on the floor, didn't talk about film, just the dog, the neighbor's broken sprinkler. The way the sun came through the blinds, but it didn't stop. By the end of the week, 2 more crew members from Barrett's past productions had contacted Alicia. One had been a costume assistant, the other a trans PA. Both described similar behavior, taunts in private, dismissals in public, strategic isolation. Neither had reported it at the time, both offered to now. Alicia gathered everything. She expanded the complaint into a broader submission. She contacted the Entertainment Guild's Ethics Board, then the Producers Guild, then the Independent Filmmakers Alliance. It was no longer about one set, it was about a pattern. The studio behind Ash and Ember stayed silent until a podcast brought up the story. A segment called Behind the Frame featured a panel of indie filmmakers discussing toxic set culture. One of the guests, a well-known director, brought up Adrian's story without being prompted. "It's not surprising," she said. "What's surprising is that someone finally had the guts to stand up and stay standing." Adrian listened to it in his car, parked outside a grocery store. The windows were rolled down. He didn't cry, but his chest felt full. By the end of the month, Barrett was dropped from a series he'd been set to helm. The studio didn't name the reason, but everyone knew. Adrian didn't celebrate. He just went back to work. Small jobs at first, a short film, a branded campaign for an outdoor gear company, a documentary pickup shoot. He stayed quiet, focused, still. But the calls started changing. One came from a mid-size agency he'd pitched years ago and never heard back from. "We've been following your work," they said. "We'd love to talk." He said he'd think about it. Another came from a director, Sarah Meggia, known for her sharp political dramas and clean visual style. She'd seen the story, heard the audio, and wanted to meet. They sat across from each other in a dim coffee shop off Fairfax. "I liked how you handled it," she said. "Not just the visuals, the voice, the silence." He nodded. "I wasn't trying to be loud." "You don't have to be loud to be right," she said. "You just have to stay standing." A week later, she offered him the DP job on her next feature. Adrian took it. He still hadn't done any major interviews, no variety profile, no on-camera sit-down, but the story kept moving without him, because the people it mattered to weren't looking for noise, they were looking for proof that someone could fight back and still keep working. One night, he and Eric sat on their porch watching traffic crawl below. The dog was asleep between them. Eric handed him a letter, handwritten, postmarked from Austin. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet, carefully folded. "I almost left film, then I saw what you did. I'm staying, thank you." No name, no return address, just a short sentence written in clean, block letters. He folded the letter again and put it in his jacket pocket. The wind picked up. The city lights flickered through the haze. He didn't say anything, but he felt something shift, not the end, not even close. Just a better kind of beginning. The first time Adrian saw the article, it wasn't on a trade site or film blog. It was on someone's Instagram story. A cropped headline, a flame emoji, and a caption that read, "This is what happens when you make everything about identity." The headline itself wasn't subtle. Sources claim DP disrupted set over creative differences. Was the drama manufactured? He clicked through, read it once, then again. It was written anonymously. No byline, no direct quotes, just a list of unnamed sources close to production. It painted the events as messy, complicated, more mutual than any previous coverage had dared. It said Barrett had been provoked, that Adrian had brought in personal grievances and divided the crew with his politics. Adrian didn't flinch. He took a screenshot, forwarded it to Alicia, then turned off his notifications, but the smear worked. By the next morning, film forums were flooded. Anonymous users regurgitated talking points from the article. Some even claimed to be crew members, saying things like, "Barrett just wanted to shoot a film. This guy made it about himself." A Twitter thread tried to argue that Adrian had staged the hot mic capture as a publicity stunt. Another insisted that Barrett had been pushed out unfairly for a single comment taken out of context. He stayed offline for 2 days. Eric handled groceries, the dog, even texts from family asking if they should be worried. Adrian just worked. He color-corrected footage from an old project he hadn't touched in months. He reorganized his files, updated his resume, answered emails from festival contacts who had suddenly remembered his name. But then his agent called. "I'm getting calls from people who are nervous," she said. "Some of them are interested in working with you, others they're asking if you're difficult." "I haven't done anything difficult," Adrian replied. "I know that, but they're hearing noise." He didn't respond, she softened. "Ride this out, just stay focused on your work, let Alicia handle the noise." But the noise was growing. Barrett's legal team filed a response to the complaint, a long, carefully worded letter that challenged the narrative point by point. It claimed the audio was edited. It accused Adrian of violating professional conduct guidelines by weaponizing crew dynamics. It said he had derailed production and damaged the integrity of the film. The production company didn't comment, but they didn't deny it either. A few days later, someone emailed Adrian using a fake address, just a single sentence. "You'll never work again." He forwarded it, blocked the sender, then added it to the folder. He told Alicia everything. She listened quietly, then sent him a revised timeline. "We move forward," she said. "The investigation is still open. The Guild's review board is watching closely, and we have allies." Adrian nodded. "I just didn't think it would get this dirty." It always does when the system knows it's exposed. Barrett didn't go silent either. He gave an interview on a podcast with a friendly host, someone known for telling it like it is. Barrett didn't mention Adrian by name, but it wasn't subtle. He talked about how art had become politicized, how he missed the days when sets were about the work, not identity. He said he was devastated by the accusations and hinted that people were being silenced for asking questions. That clip was harder to ignore. Eric played it on the TV one night just to see what they were up against. Adrian watched Barrett speak like none of it had happened, like there wasn't audio, like there weren't witnesses, like the damage had somehow turned him into the victim. "He's pivoting," Eric said, playing the underdog. Adrian didn't reply because what bothered him most was Barrett. It was the silence of those who knew the truth and said nothing. People who'd been on set, people who'd seen it. Some had reached out quietly, texts, emails, check-ins, but publicly most stayed silent. "I don't blame them," Alicia said. "They're scared." "I get it," Adrian said, "but it still stings." She said, "So make it count." So he did. The Guild scheduled a public review hearing. Not a trial, just a formal on-the-record session to evaluate the complaint and give both parties space to speak. It wasn't mandatory. Adrian didn't have to go. He said yes anyway. The room was modest. Carpeted, quiet, with 3 board members seated at the front. Alicia beside him, Jess in the row behind. The hearing wasn't open to press, but everyone in the industry would know it happened. Barrett didn't attend. He sent a written statement citing ongoing emotional distress and hostility from the community. Adrian spoke for 10 minutes. He didn't read from a script. He just told the truth, how it began, how it escalated, how it made him question his place in an industry he loved. "I never asked to be part of a movement," he said. "I just wanted to do my job, and when I was treated like I didn't belong, I documented it, because silence has never protected people like me." He paused, let the room sit with the weight of it. "I've never yelled, I've never retaliated, I've never threatened. All I did was refuse to disappear." When he sat down, no one applauded, but one of the board members nodded, and that was enough. Afterward, Jess hugged him in the hallway. "You're stronger than he ever thought." He didn't feel strong, but he felt real. That night, a clip from the hearing leaked, just a quote, the last line. "All I did was refuse to disappear." It spread fast, first in group chats, then onto blogs, then onto the kind of platforms that usually ignored stories like his. Actors reposted it, producers, crew, small creators, big ones, and then something shifted, not all at once, but enough. Adrian didn't win an award, he didn't get a call from Netflix, but a week later, a casting director he'd worked with years ago emailed him. "I see you," she wrote. "I saw all of it, I just wanted you to know that." Then, at the bottom, "I have a director looking for a DP, and they asked for someone they could trust." Adrian didn't respond right away. He stared at the message, then closed his laptop. And finally, after weeks of holding his breath, he let it go, just for one night. The email came from a production assistant Adrian barely remembered. Her name was Lacey. She'd been on set during Ash and Ember, part of the behind-the-scenes team hired to collect EPK footage. Those quick interviews, B-roll clips, candid moments to be chopped into promotional reels. They'd hardly spoken during the shoot. She mostly hovered near the director's tent with a handheld camera collecting ambient footage and reaction shots, but now she was in his inbox. The message was short. "Hi Adrian, I've got something you need to see. I never turned this in." Attached was a drive link. He clicked. The first clip was 10 minutes of raw B-roll from day 15. A setup in the shack, the one before Barrett had lost his temper. The camera wasn't pointed at anything in particular, just a wide shot of the set cast and crew moving around. You could hear Barrett in the background giving direction, making jokes. Then as the camera pans slightly, the audio picks up something else. Barrett talking to the first AD off camera. Honestly, I don't trust that guy. Always second-guessing. Has that look, you know the type. Like he's got something to prove because he grew up too soft. That's what happens when you fill crews with diversity hires. They buckle under pressure. Adrian hit pause. The footage wasn't dramatic. There were no slurs, no shouting, just calm, confident discrimination caught on tape without him realizing he'd been recorded. He watched the next file, more B-roll, later that day. The camera must have been left running while Lacey adjusted her rig because it sat low on a crate aimed at the monitors. You could see Barrett pacing behind them, drinking from a water bottle. Then suddenly his voice again, this time louder. He's not a cinematographer. He's a stylist. He wants everything to look pretty so he can show it off on his little gay reel. No substance, no instinct. Someone laughs, a nervous kind of laugh, then a pause. You want real cinema, you need real men behind the camera. Adrian shut the laptop. He didn't cry, didn't even breathe hard. He just sat there, hands folded, until the shaking in his stomach settled. He called Alicia. I've got video, he said. 2 clips, clear audio, context, B-roll footage. Alicia didn't hesitate. Send it. By the end of the day, the Guild had it. So did the Producers Alliance. So did a reporter at Variety that Alicia trusted. The next morning, the story broke. It wasn't a whisper this time, not a social media rumor or anonymous blog post. It was front-page industry news. Exclusive, leaked behind-the-scenes footage reveals director's homophobic remarks undermining discrimination denial. Article embedded the clips. The audio was clear, Barrett's voice unmistakable. No editing tricks, no ambiguity. Just contempt recorded between takes, casually spoken like he'd been saying things like that for years. Adrian's name was in the article, not as a victim. As a professional who had documented his truth and refused to be erased. The fallout was fast. Barrett's agent dropped him by the end of the day. A producer for a Netflix limited series announced Barrett was no longer attached. 2 other companies released statements condemning the language and behavior displayed in the footage. The production company behind Ash and Ember, silent until then, issued a formal apology to Adrian and the crew. It acknowledged the failures in oversight and promised to implement stronger protections for marginalized workers moving forward. That part made Adrian pause. Protections, it shouldn't have taken this long, it shouldn't have taken footage, but at least now they couldn't pretend they didn't know. That night, Adrian turned his phone back on, hundreds of messages, some from people he knew, congratulatory, emotional, grateful, others from strangers. A young queer filmmaker in Kentucky wrote, I'm in tears. I thought maybe I was just too sensitive. Thank you for showing us we're not crazy. A former grip from one of Barrett's older shoots sent a voice note. He cornered me behind a trailer once, called me a waste of space. I never forgot it. I'm so glad someone finally nailed him. One message simply read, you didn't just survive him, you dismantled him. Eric came home late from a school event and found Adrian sitting on the couch, eyes glassy but calm. You okay? He asked. Adrian nodded. I think I am. Eric sat beside him. It's happening, it's really happening. Adrian leaned back. I never wanted to take him down. I know. I just wanted to do my job. And now you made it easier for others to do theirs. The next morning, an invitation arrived in his inbox. A panel, hosted by one of the major cinematographer guilds. Title, Safe Sets, Power, Prejudice, and Accountability in Production Environments. Adrian's name was listed beside 2 other guests, a sound mixer who had sued a major director for discrimination and a showrunner who had overhauled her writer's room policies after a harassment scandal. He stared at the invite for a while before replying, Yes, I'll be there. The panel was packed, quiet at first, the kind of audience that leaned forward when they didn't want to miss anything. Adrian wore a simple black shirt, no suit, no badge. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. When it was his turn to speak, he didn't prepare a speech, just told the story like he always had. I didn't set out to fight, he said. I just refused to step back. And that became the line people tweeted, shared, quoted in articles, printed on t-shirts by a grassroots crew union weeks later. He just refused to step back. It didn't make him famous. He didn't want to be famous, but it made him undeniable. A few days after the panel, he got a call from Sarah Meggia, the director who had reached out before. I just locked financing, she said. You still free for fall? He smiled, I'm ready. Her voice softened. We're going to make something beautiful, no fear on this one. And for the first time in a long while, Adrian believed it. The wind outside was soft that night. The lights of the city glowed like warmth instead of warning. Adrian sat on his balcony with a drink in hand, watching the stars try to break through the light pollution. He thought about the camera, the way it never lies, the way it frames what's true, and how sometimes the most powerful shot isn't the one you plan, but the one that rolls when no one thinks you're looking. The first day of Sarah Meggia's new film didn't feel like vindication. It felt like work. That was the part Adrian liked best. The set was calm, organized, no tension humming under the lights. Sarah was sharp, respectful. The crew was diverse in ways that felt natural instead of forced. And when Adrian called out frame lines or adjusted flags, no one second-guessed him. No one muttered behind the monitors. He just worked. They just trusted. The production manager had asked if he needed any accommodations after what he'd been through on Ash and Ember. Adrian had simply said, clear communication and respect. That's all he ever wanted. They gave him that. In the mornings, he arrived first, checked the lens kits, cleaned his glass-marked blocking paths before anyone else touched the floor. It was habit now, preparation as armor. But this time the armor didn't feel necessary. It just felt like routine. He didn't speak about Barrett unless asked. When people brought it up, he nodded, offered a sentence or two, and moved on. He didn't want it to be the thing that followed him. It was already part of the reel. It didn't need to be the headline forever. Still, it lingered. One afternoon, while adjusting a camera setup on the second floor of a dusty apartment set, a young grip approached him. Couldn't have been older than 23, wore a backward cap and a nervous smile. I just wanted to say thanks, he said. You being here, it means something. Adrian paused. To who? The grip rubbed the back of his neck. To guys like me. I almost quit last year. I thought there wasn't space for people like us unless we kept our heads down. Adrian didn't smile, but his voice softened. I know that feeling. You showed it's possible to stay without shrinking. Adrian gave him a small nod. Then stay and don't shrink either. Moments like that didn't come every day, but they came enough. The film wrapped 6 weeks later. Sarah gave a short speech before the final shot. She didn't mention the past. She just thanked everyone for creating a set that felt like art instead of ego. Adrian watched her from behind the camera, framed her against the warm wash of golden hour light, and thought, this is what it should have always been. After wrap, he didn't go to the after party. He went home, put his gear away. Sat on the couch with Eric and their dog and ordered Thai food. No champagne, no speeches, just quiet. A week later, the Guild released the final results of their investigation. Barrett's membership was suspended indefinitely. The Guild's statement was brief but clear. The documented behavior represents a violation of professional standards and a failure to maintain a safe and equitable work environment. They didn't use the word homophobia, but they didn't deny it either. Barrett issued no public response. His rep said he was taking time for personal reflection. One outlet reported he'd moved out of Los Angeles. Another said he was pitching a book deal. Adrian didn't care. He didn't track it anymore. He didn't need to. Instead, he focused on his next job, and the one after that. He started getting scripts he actually wanted to shoot, projects with voice, with purpose. He was invited to speak at film schools. Sometimes he said yes, sometimes he didn't. He didn't want to become a symbol, but he didn't mind being a reminder. At one of the events, a student asked him, "How did you not break?" Adrian thought about it for a second. Because I was never trying to win, he said. I was just trying not to disappear. The auditorium went quiet. It always did when he said that. One night, Eric brought home a bottle of wine and handed Adrian an envelope with a note inside. To Adrian, thank you for what you made space for. Inside was a folded printout of an article from a small, regional production blog. The headline read, Local DP files complaint against studio after on-set harassment, cites Morales case as inspiration. He read it twice. The name of the DP was someone he didn't know, but it still felt personal, like a stone thrown across water that finally reached another shore. The dog barked at something outside. Eric laughed. The night kept going. Months passed. Ash and Ember was eventually released quietly through a streaming platform that buried it halfway down the drama category. The cinematography looked beautiful. Adrian's name was listed second in the credits, right where it belonged. Barrett's name appeared too, but smaller with an asterisk, a note clarifying he had left production partway through. Adrian watched 5 minutes, then turned it off. He'd already lived it. He didn't need to watch it again. Instead, he focused on finishing color for a documentary about queer elders in New Mexico. He flew to Austin to shoot a coming-of-age indie. He signed with a new agency that actually returned his calls. He bought a better camera rig. He slept deeper at night. One evening, as the city lights blinked beneath their apartment window, Eric turned to him and said, "You know you changed something, right?" Adrian didn't answer at first. Then, maybe for someone somewhere. For more than someone. Adrian leaned back against the armrest. I just hope I didn't make it worse for the next guy. Eric smiled. You didn't, you gave him a path. Adrian closed his eyes, let the moment settle in. Somewhere on some other set, another camera was rolling. Another story was being told. And this time, the person behind the lens knew they belonged there.